We know we're supposed to find joy in the journey, but it's not always that easy with some of our more challenging experiences, especially a spiritual injury. But remember, we signed up for these challenges before we came here so we could learn to overcome them. Maybe you've been screaming to the heavens, if you want me to be so happy, if you want me to find joy in the journey, then don't put a bunch of you know what on my path. Yes, we are meant to rise above the ashes and overcome our challenges, but how exactly? How can we purify ourselves of these experiences? How can we get back to that pure positive light where all the good stuff is? If you or anyone you know is having trouble rising above the ashes, then stay tuned. What do you do when your dreams feel unreachable, your reality feels close to unbearable, and no matter how hard you work to shake things up, no matter how much time and effort you put into changing your life, you still feel deeply, painfully, and hopelessly stuck? What you need is alchemy. What is alchemy? Well, it's a process that changes or transforms something in a magical way. You can discover how to create this very practical form of magic in your own life, shifting your energy in a way that dissolves the obstacles in your path to literally bring success to you. My name is Remy, like Do Re Mi, and I'm a best-selling author. Knowing how to unlock this hidden power, how to take back your resilience so you can just move forward, is the battle cry of anyone who's been through one of life's crushing setbacks. Luckily, unlocking your hidden power is easier than it might seem. I have something that I think you'll enjoy, and you can get started with this very practical form of magic right here, right now. Okay, let me jump off the screen here so I can see my laptop. Today, we're talking about what to do when you want to find joy in the journey, but maybe you're still in the ashes. Maybe you're still trying to rise above. And this can be especially tricky in the depths of some of these experiences that we go through. So, how exactly do we overcome these challenges that have left us burning in the ashes so we can find joy in the journey? How can we just move on and find success on this journey? If you aren't getting the success you want in full abundance, however you identify with success, and if you're wanting to tap into a greater knowingness and align with the higher consciousness of your infinite self, instead of the lower ego thinking that pushes desires away, then this episode is for you. It's time to be unabashedly, unapologetically, happily untethered to ego thinking. It's time to align with our soul's path instead. This episode is for you if you wonder the most productive way to use contemplation and not just obsess over a betrayal. This episode is for you if you wonder how to set a personal policy that can serve you really well so that you don't have to hide from things or people that can hurt you. And this episode is for you if you wonder how to easily rise to your potential. Yes, these episodes are about how to find your hidden power when you want to transform challenges into successes. I like to call it the audacity of alchemy. Because when we're feeling stuck, it's never the situation that has us stuck. It's our energy that's become stuck in anxiety, overwhelm, doubts, worries, frustrations, indecision, even anger. And often this is because of a spiritual injury that we've experienced, some kind of hidden trauma. So it isn't the pain of the situation, it's the pain of not being connected in the natural energy of who we really are, of being connected to that magical part of us that's a creative vibrational being who can use positive energies to create what we want and bring it into physical manifestation. We can watch our manifestations materialize and not get stuck in the negative vibrations that block them if we know how. These positive energies that we talk about so much are where we find the magic of alchemy, because our choice of frequency, our choice of those higher energy thought patterns can change the course of our journey. So today, we're talking about how to rise above the ashes and overcome our challenges. How can we purify ourselves of any negative residue so that we can get back to that pure positive light where all the good stuff is? Well, maybe you're still in the ashes. Maybe you're still trying to rise above. Just this week, I shared a post on Facebook that said, there's something special about a woman who overcomes everything that's meant to destroy her. I'm going to be sharing some things today that may resonate with you and others may not. So just be careful with what you're taking in and get rid of any thoughts or ideas that simply don't resonate with you. Because when we experience those things that are meant to destroy us, some would call these things blocks, and others would call them fears, and others would call them challenges. We always have the energy of contemplation available for us. Contemplation is a way to judge or discern what we've been through so that we can make some new choices. Maybe there was something we fell into, a relationship, a situation, a crossroads that we didn't think through. Maybe we fell into an old trap. Maybe it was the trap of old thinking, which is really ego thinking. Or maybe we were knocked down or something brought us to our knees. Whatever's happened to us wasn't designed to keep us down. It was designed to bring us to a point where we want to overcome it, to stir that desire to rise again as we reach for our wholeness. We want to take this time to contemplate so that we can realign with who we really are. And from that realignment, we can design our next move. Every week we talk about how to unlock your hidden power, and this week is no different because we want to look at not just rising up again from the ashes, but also how to purify our soul so that we can sweep away the residue of these ashes. Many, many years ago, I had a friend who was dating a police officer, and there had been a mass murder at this family home. And now we're not going to talk about murders or crimes or anything negative like that, but we are going to talk about the ashes that are left after a fire. Anyway, there was a young man who was estranged from his family, and for some reason, he plotted out a plan to take the life of every family member, one by one, as they came home from church one Sunday. And then he set the house on fire where they all lived, and he was caught, and he did go off to jail. Now, as a side note, because I didn't even know this trivia, but apparently there's a pecking order in the jails, and when the other inmates heard about what he'd done, killing his entire family, including an infant, every night when their dinner came there at the jail, the inmates would pee all over his food. Anyway, that's trivia that has absolutely nothing to do with anything, but just something I thought of in this moment. I don't know, maybe there's a metaphor inside that there was a pecking order in the jail. And whether we're in jail or just out here in the universe, let's just try and stay on the good side of things. So anyway, back to the house that was set on fire. The investigation did eventually wrap up, and this police officer mentioned that they were looking for volunteers to clean up the house. And we had a crew of maybe 6 people, and we would take objects one by one and try to clean them up for donation. And of course, throw away those things that couldn't be salvaged at all. And I remember that I was struck by how many things just flat out melted, even the toaster in the kitchen. I didn't realize that many toasters are actually made of plastic. So there were all these things throughout the house that just didn't survive, like so many of us that are reduced to ashes, and we wonder whether we'll survive. So anyway, I was assigned to the living room, which was pretty far away from where the fire was started. And I had a china cabinet and a bookcase, a couple of lamps, things like that. Now, if you've ever tried to clean smoke and char off of something, it isn't that easy to do because the smoke got all inside this china cabinet and ruined just about everything inside of it. But there was this one little porcelain angel. At least I think it was porcelain or maybe some kind of glass. This little angel was painted ivory and trimmed in gold, and she was maybe 5 or 6 inches tall. And this little angel, well, was actually pretty easy to clean up. And I thought to myself, boy, somebody would love to have this little porcelain angel. And then I thought we should all be so lucky to survive a tragedy like this. We're covered in smoke and char. We have walked through the fire. And when you think about it, if you consider how many of us are angels on this earth, how many of us are light workers or even a guiding light for others as they try to struggle through their challenges, we have strength within us to rise up from the ashes, just like that little porcelain angel. We were designed to rise above. We were designed to overcome our obstacles. We can always change the energy of our circumstances. Are we strong enough? That's the question. And when we go through something that's really, really trying, how do we purify our soul? How do we clean off that char? Because we really don't want all that residue all over us, right? How do we purify ourselves? How do we change the energy of our situation? How do we take back our power? Well, this journey we're on and our experiences are what we make of it. We have this magical energy inside of us to make a choice in how we'll feel about things. We get to choose our frequency and how we're going to move forward, even after we've fallen, even after we've been through the fire. One of the most important things to do is to use discernment. We want to discern between what we don't want to go through ever again and what we do want to design for ourselves instead. We can't go into self pity. I mean, think of that little porcelain angel. What good would it do for her to go into self pity? She'd be too busy looking for all the blessings, right? That little angel would want to find a way to utilize her experience in a very positive way so that something good could come out of it. And it goes without saying that we have the same choice. After we go through a challenge and we're contemplating what we've been through and what we want to design next, we may want to look for whether there was some kind of deception or betrayal, maybe lying or cheating or that sort of thing. And we want to look at whether we were blindsided, whether we had stepped out of our own power, and how could things have been different if we had been in our power. But after this contemplation phase, which is really quite natural, we still get to choose our frequency. We get to choose how we think about it. Because often when we go through some kind of challenge, it presents an opportunity for us to develop a policy. Now, policy is a rule or a guideline of what we will or won't allow into our lives again. A policy is something that empowers us rather than stripping us of our power and burning us to the ground into a pile of ashes so that we don't have to hide, so that we won't make bad decisions. The less time we have to spend cleaning up the residue, the better. And a really good policy is born out of a challenge. It keeps us from making the same mistakes over and over again. So, as you're contemplating what you've been through, ask, what did I learn? And what policy do I need to adopt? I think I mentioned this in a previous episode, but when I was much younger, back in my early 20s, I found myself dating an alcoholic drug addict. And I'd never been exposed to this kind of thing before. I know I've led a sheltered life, right? But when I came out the other side of that relationship, my policy was to never date that kind of man again. And I never have. That's what a policy can do for you. It's empowering. It helps to make better decisions. Now, the other thing to look at while we're contemplating what challenge we've been through is, what if something was hidden? Sometimes it's beneficial to go find those missing hidden pieces. At the same time, sometimes life simply doesn't deliver the answer to us for whatever reason. And so we get to decide whether we want to go looking for those answers so that we have a better understanding of what's happened, so that we can get the lesson within it. And for me, I found that I don't always need to have the answer, because maybe those answers are withheld for a reason. Maybe it's so that we'll keep our mitts off things. Maybe it's so that we'll focus on self-care so that we can step more into our feminine power, or whatever power we're wanting to tap into. Maybe it's hidden so that we don't judge the situation or put any negative energy on it. This is all part of discerning, and discerning what's right for you. Okay. So let's move on. Even when we don't have the understanding that we want, a challenge can often be filled with darkness. And most of the time, we don't have to understand it. We simply want to add light to that darkness no matter what. That's what we do as light workers. And that's the thing about lightness and darkness. In the presence of one, the other can't exist. Now, in reality, we're made up of both dark and light energies. We have access to both. And this is why you've heard me say before that I don't necessarily agree with the statement that we are supposed to feel our feelings. If our feelings are dark, if we're in a dark place, focusing on those dark feelings can sometimes put us into a deeper spiral. It's like this. We often don't rise to the level of our potential as spiritual beings if we fall to the level of our dominant emotions. Let me say that again. We often don't rise to the level of our potential as spiritual beings if we fall to the level of our dominant emotions. Sometimes it takes practice and discipline to reach a new frequency and stay there. And I'd much rather find a place of balance than to fall to the dark place. And that's why I prefer to focus on positive energies, because it helps to bring ego thinking into balance. Now, you may feel the same way too. We can appreciate the dark feelings, we can honor them, but we don't have to bury ourselves in those ashes because we're designed to rise above the ashes. And by focusing on pure positive light, this is what helps sweep out the residue. Make sense? Okay. Now, we've talked about the illusion here plenty of times, and that our challenges are illusions that are asking us to rise to a higher frequency, to higher thought patterns. And sometimes, as we contemplate our challenge and what we've been through, we have an opportunity to look deep into the wisdom of our soul. We can look for the silver linings and look for the higher possibilities. We can choose to see from a higher perspective. It's a choice. Just like that little porcelain angel, what would her perspective be about the challenges you've faced recently? Would she point out that there's a silver lining in front of you? Would a more ascended perspective be beneficial for you? So the question we're asking is, how do we purify our soul after a challenge or after a spiritual injury? We're really talking about how to cleanse off any negative residue, and this gets down to choice. Remember, it isn't the situation, it's our energy about the situation that blocks everything we want to create. So we have a choice to sweep aside the negative residue and focus instead on the silver linings. That's step one. Make a choice to sweep aside any negative thoughts and make a choice to focus on the silver linings instead, because there's a danger zone around the ashes. And what do I mean by that? How is there a danger zone around the ashes? Well, you know how they say to create a fire break around your homestead to protect it from wildfires? This is a diagram from the CSFS. If your house is surrounded by low brush, they want you to lay a fire break around your house. This would be like a jogging path made of gravel, concrete, or at least just bare earth. It's a gap in vegetation or to slow the progress of a fire. Well, if something has happened to you personally, some kind of a devastating challenge that brought you to your knees and you're still laying in the ashes, what's going to protect you from another similar devastation? What's going to protect you from heartbreak? What's going to protect you from another betrayal? Can you build a fire break around your soul? Well, some people do. But we've come here to this earth school to learn how to overcome these challenges. And if something knocks us to the ground and now we're a pile of ashes, we're vulnerable. Some people put protection around their heart, like a fire break. They don't want to be open and vulnerable to being hurt again. They aren't willing to open up or trust anything. They close off. They become elusive and evasive around others, keeping everyone at a distance. They cut everything off with their armor just in case the warning bells inside their head start going off. And they say, I'll never again open myself up. And that's unfortunate. They live behind their own fire break. The thing is, we're born to make mistakes and learn from these mistakes. We can't do that if we're too busy standing behind any kind of a wall. We're here to create connection with other people and all that is. We're here to rise up. It's a choice. We're here to find joy and feel really good about the things we're creating. We can't do that if we're so afraid of being vulnerable. We can't do that if we continue to lie in a pile of ashes. How can the universe bring us good if we aren't open enough to receive it? I told this to a friend of mine who chose to ghost people instead of being willing to be open to the good that might be right there in front of him. He sets up fire breaks and uses ghosting to protect his heart. So when we let disappointments from the past stunt our growth, when we let disappointments lead us into making bad choices and bad decisions, that keeps us down in the ashes. When we're afraid of disappointments happening again, it really does stunt our spiritual growth. We want to figure out how to rise up with an open heart so that the energy of what we're holding on to doesn't affect the way things are now coming toward us. So even if something has brought us to our knees, and believe me, I've been there, we want to rise up from the ashes. We aren't meant to lay there and die. Our experiences are meant to help us transform. And one of the quickest ways to transform challenges into blessings is it's a choice to look for the silver linings. We have that choice to open our arms and invite the positive new experiences. And this simple invitation alone can be our way of sweeping away the negative residue, leaving us open to purification. What we're really doing is purifying our negative, disempowering thoughts. We're disallowing the illusion. We're disallowing ego thinking. We're connecting instead to higher consciousness thought patterns. We're ascending above our experiences, opening up to joy and happiness and bliss wherever we can find it. We're inviting in the higher frequencies and getting back to that pure positive light where all the good stuff is. Remember, to navigate our soul's path, all that's really required is a shift in frequency, a shift in our energy from negative emotions to positive emotions and more positive energies, because our choice of frequency changes the course of our journey. So, reflecting back on everything we covered today, how can you apply what you've learned? First of all, what does purification mean for you? Today, we talked about purification meaning a shift from negative thoughts about what's happened into a higher frequency of possibilities and joy. And if you were going to create a joy list, what would be on it? I did this one time and just made a little joy list one summer on my iPhone. Quick little things like taste every flavor of frozen yogurt at Yogurtland, go to every free summer concert I could go to get out of my yoga pants and go to the pool at least once, to try and find the best cinnamon roll in town. And I have to admit, having that little joy list made a huge difference for me that summer. So what would be on your list? What would bring you joy here in the upcoming weeks? Well, I hope this helps you as you're using the powers of alchemy to transform challenges and obstacles into positive new successes. But if you still can't get your head around what's got you stuck, you can tell me about it. You can send me a question to questions@unlockyourhiddenpower.com, or I also have a free guide available for you if you'll simply visit unlockyourhiddenpower.com. Of course, if you're already right here on the podcast page and not listening through iTunes, then you'll see right there for you at the top right-hand corner, there's your little place where you can grab it. This is for you if you want to get unstuck from a situation and just move forward. And for the last 10 years, I've been teaching people how to get unstuck. This is an interactive full-color workbook, and it's the first step in getting out of the sheer frustration of being stuck and spinning your wheels on success that seems elusive. So if you're in the middle of everything going wrong with no easy answers, then visit unlockyourhiddenpower.com for your free copy. Thanks for joining me today, and I'm wishing you a life filled with all the alchemy you need to bring success to you. Feel free to share this video with anyone you know who's feeling stuck, and don't forget to grab your free guide at unlockyourhiddenpower.com.